Hi everyone. Thanks for joining me for this webinar about starting an incorporated association. My name is Bianca Williams and I'm a Senior Project Officer with the Community Engagement Team for New South Wales Fair Trading. Today, I'll be talking you through the essentials for starting an incorporated association. It's important to point out that this is a general information session only and is not to be considered as legal interpretation or legal advice. New South Wales Fair Trading acknowledges the traditional custodians of the lands where we work and live. We celebrate the diversity of Aboriginal people and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and waters of New South Wales. We extend that acknowledgement of respect to the custodians for the lands on which you're watching this webinar. During this session, we'll cover what incorporation means and the reasons why groups choose to incorporate. While there are benefits to becoming incorporated, it also comes with certain responsibilities. I'll briefly touch on those steps to set up your association, but mostly this session will focus on what's involved in starting an association, your compliance obligations, and the steps you can take to ensure good governance for your group. Becoming incorporated provides a legal structure for groups of people to come together and form an association so they can work towards a common purpose or a common cause. Groups that may become registered as incorporated associations in New South Wales are generally small, non-commercial, not-for-profit groups, such as running a community, cultural, sporting or charity group. We have over 136,000 associations in Australia, with approximately 38,500 based in New South Wales. Firstly, incorporation is a choice. When you incorporate, you're creating a legal entity that exists in its own right. A legal entity is separate to its members. As a legal entity, an incorporated association can own property in its own name. It can enter into contracts such as grants or funding. It can sue or be sued in its own name. The entity continues even when there are changes to its membership and management committee. When an association is incorporated, the liability of individual members for the association's actions and debts is limited only to the amount that an individual member may owe the association. For example, a membership fee or subscription. The legislation governing incorporated associations in New South Wales consists of the Associations Incorporations Act 2009 and the Associations Incorporation Regulation 2022. The Act sets out the governance framework that applies to all associations, which can only be modified by Parliament. The Act requires that every association to nominate a constitution, which is a contract between the association and its members. The Constitution can set out specific requirements that suit the association's individual needs. Associations must also specify their purpose or objects, and incorporated associations must be engaging in small-scale, non-profit, and non-commercial activities. What is small-scale? New South Wales Fair Trading has a policy to guide you in determining if an incorporated association is small-scale. An incorporated association would generally not be considered small scale where its income and or total assets exceed $5 million or current assets exceed $2 million. This is important when considering incorporation in the first place, and it also helps us and you to assess if it's appropriate for an association to remain incorporated under the Act. The non-profit requirement doesn't mean that your association can't make money. It simply ensures that any money generated goes back into delivering on the group's objective or purpose. For example, a soccer club saving for lights. An incorporated association cannot be used to secure a direct monetary gain for members. If you are uncertain about what may or may not be considered commercial activity, then you should seek independent professional advice concerning the nature of the activities. The committee appoints the public officer, who must be over the age of 18 years and must reside in New South Wales. A public officer is an authorised signatory by virtue of that position, but they don't necessarily need to be a member of the association. They could be a solicitor or an accountant, for example. The The public officer will continue to be Fair Trading's point of contact for your association, and it is the public officer's name that appears on the public register. The public officer must ensure that all correspondence received is provided to the committee as soon as practicable. The public officer is responsible for notifying Fair Trading of a change to an association's official address and is responsible for receiving and handing over records held by former committee members which belong to the association. The public officer must also hand over any association documents within 14 days to a committee member when he or she vacates the position of public officer. The committee, however, is responsible for ensuring the association has lodged their annual summary of financial affairs with Service New South Wales and any other forms on behalf of the association. So how do you register an association and create a new legal entity? You must have a minimum of 5 members, though there is no upper limit for the number of members. The association must have objects which define its purpose or philosophy, and it must nominate a constitution which sets out how the association will be managed. The terms of the constitution acts as a contract between the members and the associations, so it's important to get them right and ensure everyone agrees on them. The first step in the registration process is to consider the name. The name must be available and considered acceptable. The name will not be accepted if it's identical or similar to another name that is registered. The second step is to apply for registration by email to Fair Trading or in person at a Service New South Wales centre. This is where you provide specific information about the proposed incorporated association. You'll have to provide a copy of your own constitution if you are going to operate under your own, or your group can adopt the model constitution. Every association must have an official address. The proposed official address must be an address in New South Wales at which documents can be served on the association by post. It cannot be a post office box. You must appoint a public officer who will be the point of contact. Once registered, the association will be issued with a certificate of incorporation in the name of the association, together with a registration number. It's important to note that once incorporated, the full name of the association must appear on all official documents and publications, including the website. What are your statutory obligations? Committee members and the public officer are primarily responsible for ensuring an incorporated association complies with its statutory and reporting obligations. The association must have a committee to manage its affairs on behalf of the members, and those affairs must be managed in accordance with its constitution. An annual general meeting must be held within 6 months of the end of the association's financial year. The committee is usually elected at the AGM, and a report on the association's financial transactions must be presented to members. Once members have accepted the financial report, it then forms the basis of the association's annual reporting to New South Wales Fair Trading. An annual general meeting legislation is very clear that individual members are not to receive a direct financial gain from the association. Failure to comply with these obligations may lead to cancellation of the association. It could also lead to the issue of a penalty notice or prosecution if serious enough to warrant investigation. The association's constitution sets out how the elected committee is to run the association. The legislation requires the committee to have 3 or more members. Each member must be over the age of 18 and 3 members must reside in Australia. The committee is responsible for managing the day-to-day affairs of the association. The Constitution should also set out the committee's authority. Certain matters and major changes, including changes to the Constitution, must be put to the full membership and voted on at a special resolution. The committee must appoint a public officer when a vacancy occurs. An association must also have at least 2 authorised signatories. An authorised signatory is a person who has authority to sign official documents on behalf of the association. The public officer is, by virtue of that position, one of them. The committee may appoint additional authorised signatories. Any official document must be signed by 2 authorised signatories. Under the legislation, a common seal is not required, but associations may certainly have one. The committee must also ensure that all records and appropriate registers are maintained. Former committee members must ensure that all documents that belong to the association are delivered to the public officer within 14 days of vacating office. These documents belong to the association and not an individual. Generally speaking, committee members should ensure the association acts in accordance with its objects or purpose, be aware of their duties, obligations, and responsibilities, be aware of the duties of the public officer and ensure they are carried out, use reasonable care, skill, and due diligence in the performance of their duties, act in good faith and in the best interest of the association, and ensure new committee members are aware of their obligations and responsibilities, including the need to report annually to Fair Trading. The Act does not specify the need for public liability or any other type of insurance. However, each committee will need to consider what insurance may be required based on the activities it undertakes. For example, the risk of operating machinery at a men's shed is different to the risk of a chess club. Associations need to be aware that as a legal entity, they are included under Safe Work New South Wales definition of a person conducting a business or undertaking, and will need to address the health and safety requirements of their volunteers as well as any employees. As mentioned earlier, with the benefits of incorporation comes a number of statutory obligations, which are things associations must do. Complying with these obligations is at the core of good governance and will ensure an association's incorporation is maintained. Good governance protects the committee, the association, and its members. Good governance also maintains the association's standing in the community and provides a level of assurance that the association is being managed properly and meeting its legal obligations. All the information an association may need is available on Fair Trading's website. Go to the association's page. More detailed information on the topics presented today is available by way of a series of web pages and information sheets, which you are free to download. If you don't have access to the internet, please call the Service New South Wales Registry Services team on 1800 502 042. All the forms you need during the life of your association are also available on the website. If you would like to obtain a copy of the Act or the regulation, these are available on the New South Wales Legislation website. Thanks for listening today, and I hope all the information has been useful. If you'd like to learn more about incorporated associations, continue by reviewing the Running an Incorporated Association webinar.